Welcome to Delta Group's Task Force Report, Digital Inequality, How Idaho Can Improve. I'm James Hughes, and I'll be your narrator, reporting our group's findings and recommendations. In this presentation, we'll discuss the concept of digital inequality and how it relates to the already familiar digital divide. We'll look at how digital inequality is impacting the state of Idaho, and what can be done to augment and improve access to information technology for Idaho students and adult citizens to help narrow the gap. This report was created by Delta Group members Steve Conariato, Tanya Rush, Katie Sisson, and myself. Tanya and Katie are professional educators who work in Idaho public schools. Steve is a commercial real estate broker who teaches courses in commercial real estate across the United States. As for myself, I work as an independent media director for an entertainment agency in San Francisco, California. The Delta Task Force was organized under the direction of Idaho State Superintendent of Public Instruction, Mr. Tom Luna. Our charge was to complete 4 major tasks. First of all, to explain the concept of digital inequality and why it's a critical issue today for education in Idaho. Secondly, to review 7 action items currently recommended by the superintendent. Third, to prioritize these options and to provide justification for the priority we've set for them. And finally, to present and describe additional alternatives that we believe should be considered. So let's begin with the concept of digital inequality and how it contributes to the digital divide. The digital divide is the gap between those people and communities who have access to the tools of information technology and those who do not. On the other hand, digital inequality refers to a person's skill and their ability to make use of available technology. Those who can and do use these technologies are far more likely to make economic progress, while those who do not are often unable to keep up or move ahead, and thus remain or slide more quickly into low-income sectors of the community. So how do we close this gap? Many researchers, such as DiMaggio and Schaefer, have studied those who use information technology in everyday life compared to those who don't, and certain questions come to bear. These researchers have listed 5 measures that greatly influence digital inequality. These include equipment, whether the tools of information technology are available and up to date; autonomy of use, to what extent people are able to use this technology when and how they need to; skills, to what extent people are knowledgeable about how to use computer-based technologies and the internet; social support, whether there are others in the community who are knowledgeable and can offer assistance if and when needed; and the use of patterns, the ability to recognize and make use of the patterns common to information technology overall. It's important to remember that many who have access to such technology may not necessarily have been educated and trained in how to use it. As Barzilai Nahon states, most studies show that training and institutional support help in reducing the gaps. Closer to home, in the year 2000, just over 42% of the residents of Idaho had a computer and access to the internet. By 2006, that number had risen to 66.7%. Most recently, in the year 2010, 72% of households in Idaho had a computer and access to the internet. These numbers are increasing, but very slowly. 7 options to narrow the divide were provided by Mr. Luna's office. Our team prioritized these options with an eye toward creating opportunity for as many Idaho residents as possible, beginning with added support for public school students and disadvantaged communities, and progressing to the wider population, many of whom already have some measure of access. All of these efforts are not likely to be implemented at the same time. Therefore, we recommend an initial focus on options 1 and 2. First, we strongly urge that additional resources be allocated to Idaho's public schools to extend their hours of operation. By this, we mean significantly more open-door time than at present. Students, family members, and the general public would be invited to access computer and internet resources in public schools well beyond the usual and customary hours. Access would be offered before and after school, evenings and weekends, and during the summer months. Second, we urge that resources be allocated for the creation of training programs for improving digital literacy. This would include organizing and categorizing already existing tutorial resources, both in print and online, as well as offering live, hands-on training and support for those who would take advantage of it. These two recommendations are directly linked. The first offers the tools and the place for digital learning to occur, while the second option reinforces the skills, the what and how of the learning. Next, let's take a look at data from the Boise School District that underscores the existence and the extent of the digital divide and inequality that we've been talking about. The Boise School District has seen substantial changes in its demographics in the past 2 decades. Since 1990, the percentage of low-income students in the Boise district has increased by about 1/3. During that same period, the number of elementary schools with more than 50% of low-income students has increased from 2 to 16. This chart shows that over the last 20 years, the percentage of low-income students has nearly doubled, from 27.3% to 47.2%. Currently, there are 6 schools in the Boise district ranked as Provision 2. This means that about 80% of the students attending these schools come from low-income families. With a Provision 2 ranking, the entire school is on a free breakfast and lunch program. 11 schools in the Boise district are considered Title I by the federal government's yardstick. District-wide, more than 50% of the student population is considered low-income and in need of assistance. Implementing the previous 2 recommendations in low to moderate income schools will increase students' engagement and opportunity for digital learning. Making this technology available to parents and the general public will also help adults to better navigate the demands of Idaho's increasingly technology-driven economy, and as a consequence, they will be better able to support their children and others in their communities. Here are some additional suggestions by the Delta Group on how we might narrow the digital divide. Number 1. Provide a checkbox on the Idaho state income tax return where residents can earmark some nominal amount of their state income tax dollars to improve internet access for the disadvantaged. Number 2. Provide the ability for students to check out a computer from their school library, much like they now might check out a book. Number 3. Partner with telecommunications providers to guarantee sufficient and affordable internet service to disadvantaged communities. In conclusion, this report from the Delta Group has explained the concept of digital inequality and why it is a critical issue today for education in Idaho. We've reviewed and rank-ordered the 7 action items suggested by the Office of the Superintendent of Public Instruction, Mr. Tom Luna. We've prioritized those action items and focused on 2 of the 7 options and provided justification for these priorities. And we've described additional alternatives that we feel would be beneficial and should be considered. We believe that implementing the 2 recommendations we've presented will increase students' engagement and opportunity for learning in an environment dominated by digital information technology. Extending the hours where technology is made available will permit students to expand their literacy in the world of information technology and, as a consequence, promote higher-level thinking and improvements in the wider community. Likewise, creating training programs that support digital literacy would aid those who wish to come and drink freely from this digital fountain of knowledge. We hope that you will seriously consider our recommendations. Thank you very much for your time.